free to eat, dish up, and then we'll get going. All right, we are at 12:10. I think we are safe enough to start this event. Hello, everybody. My name is Alexandria Walker. I am a citizen of the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska. I am also the Native American Studies instructor here at Little Priest Tribal College. Stand up if you are one of my students that are volunteering for this event today. Well, this event is for the Tribal Council general election. This is also an event for the students, so I wanted to make sure that they got their spotlight before we start the actual event. And so with that, I wanted to ask Mr. Jack Lemire to come up here and give a prayer to start this event. You can do that, but let me give you the mic.
Excuse me for taking a little while to stand up. Heavenly Father, bless this gathering as we listen for the opportunity to hear the candidates rest their positions. Amen.
Pinagigi. All right, so the rules are for this event. Candidates have 5 minutes to introduce themselves. Come here. Reiterating that, since Liz just walked in, candidates will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves, and they'll have 3 minutes to answer the questions provided. I will be timing these questions, so no hard feelings if I cut you off. We're on a time limit here. Well, we're set to go to 3 p.m. I just wanted to reiterate that. And so, with that getting started, wanted to remind you guys that there are fry bread and corn soup in the back if you guys wanted to get something to eat while we do this. There's plenty to go around. And so I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, starting from down here. I think this is on. Yep.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brian Chamberlain. My Ho-Chunk name is Widu Kanaga. I'm a member of the Buffalo Clan. I have been serving with the Tribal Council off and on since 2008. If you break it down, I've sworn 5 oaths. And this term coming to an end here in 2023, this last 3 years has been a term of transition for myself individually, and it has also been one of transition for the tribe. I'm very much appreciative of every opportunity that has been afforded to me and being able to represent our people around the council table, because I do understand, as what we will get into, I'm sure, here today in any kind of discourse, when you sit at that table, you learn very quickly that you are one of 9. A lot of people think that when you sit at that table, there's a 9-member body that agrees all the time, and that is absolutely not the truth. What has to happen in that entire process, however, is what comes forward from the decision-making and the deliberations that are made around that table. As we get into this, one thing that I would hope everybody that's here and everybody that may be listening to this, if this is broadcast elsewhere, is that nothing is official around that table until the chair of the meeting declares motion carried. Everything prior to that is deliberation, it is discussion, and it is simply that. There is some confusion at times because without the chair declaring motion carried, it is easy for people to basically come up with what they believe may be true, but it is not supported by the record of the tribe. So again, I'm sure we will get into that as well. I look forward to answering your questions here today, and good luck to the candidates, and of course, best of luck to the people of our tribe as we select our leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon. My name is Victoria Kitchian. Most people know me as Tori Kitchian. I'm currently the chairwoman of the Winnebago Tribal Council. I've been serving the council since 2015. I did have a brief, maybe month and a half or 2 recess, but I've been really proud to serve the tribe, and it's been also a learning experience. You know, you come in, when I came in 2015, very ambitious, very ready to work. And from that point on, it's been nonstop work. And I've inserted myself in space and opportunities for the tribe's voice to be heard. I've made people uncomfortable at the federal level, at the local level. And it's this kind of strength and depth of the tribal leader voice that has to be shared and expressed, and dialogue has to go back and forth. and we can't have absolute, agreement at all times, but it's the consensus of the council, it's the feedback of the members, and it's really, I think as I'm always reminded, it's the prayers that are carrying us to this day and what's supposed to be for the tribe. And today I brought with me a copy of the FY24 budget that was just approved at the treasurer's report. I'm thankful to our treasurer, Rona Steeler, and our CFO, Jasmine Lammers, who was able to guide the tribal council through that exercise and approval. Thankful for Councilman Kenny Mallory for making that motion to approve that budget, as well as Vice Chair Chamberlain for seconding that motion. And so I'd be happy to share a copy of this with you. Well, I don't know if I could share a copy, but I'd be happy to share this copy with you. We can look at it. I'd like to also talk today about the 20 items that the Tribal Council is working on with General Council. And so I've served with a lot of folks at the table, and the council that I'm serving with right now, it's a mix of wisdom, it's a mix of experience, it's a mix of worker bees, and I guess I consider myself the worker bee, and I'm guided by the wisdom of the table, the strength of the table, and I just hope that you'll allow me to continue that work, because I have a sincere effort for the people, and it's not always easy saying or being that person, but I want you to know that I have not wavered from my commitment to the tribe and how I see the growth of the tribe. We have so many exciting opportunities in each of the entities, the departments, and it's like we have to catch up with ourselves. And unfortunately, some of these efforts that are growing in different directions, they need more funding. I wrote an article in the paper, you might have seen it, and I also put it on my Facebook about one of the major things that tribal members have asked for is dialysis. And the hospital has been working on that for a while. And probably at the last quarterly WCHS update, I said, where are we at on that? You guys said you're working on it, but we really need to see what does that look like. And they responded with this in-depth presentation to the board of directors with 3 options. And I also be happy to talk more in depth about those options. So it's things like this that are monumental and historic for the Winnebago tribe. And it's only through the advancement of our tribal members, of the organizations that serve our tribal members, that we can complete these amazing feats for the tribe, these goals that our ancestors had for us to be healthy Ho-Chunks. And so I just want to be a part of the work. I'll do the work. I've been helping with the work this whole time, and I'm really proud to say that, because there's not an effort or something on this paper that I have not helped shepherd along respectfully. And the council that I'm serving with, they count on me. And I try to do my best to facilitate our discussions in a fair way, in a balanced way, and so that everyone's heard. And so through those efforts, we always come to the best decision and the consensus of the table. So I just want to share that with you so you know where I'm coming from, and that that I'm open for questions. This Sunday, the incumbents are sponsoring a movie night at the big screen to watch Hocus Pocus and share a meal and just fellowship, talk to each other. Is this true? I heard this. Like, I want to hear all those things, because it's just kind of uncomfortable at this time of year when there's all this kind of lies going on in the community. And in a good way, I want to address those. It's not healthy for us, and nobody's better off when these type of mistruths are circulating at election time. So I want to be a part of the solution, and I want to be a part of the healing on how we work through that. So thank you.
I just want to tell you guys, I'm Lorelei Decora. I'm 69 years old. And I really love my Winnebago people. That's why I run. And one of my aunties told me, she said, in every decision that you're going to have to vote on, think of your Winnebago people. And so that's what guides me in the last 3 years that I've been serving on the tribal council. And I really appreciate the fact that us Winnebago people, we pray before we think of these hard things we have to face. And I'm so happy that our ancestors gave us that to guide us. To me, sitting on this tribal council, our most important function for our Winnebago people is How can we help our community be healthy and meet our most basic needs? Water, housing, land from which to build a future on. And you guys, I did a write-up, it's in the paper, came out today, about what we're working on in those areas. But I think also we never give up. That's what was passed on to us. We never give up. And the land base that our ancestors provided for us, I never forget that they had to pay the Omaha tribe from our monies from our land settlements in Wisconsin. We bought our reservation. I think we're the only tribe in the whole country that ever did that from another tribe. But at the same time, the U.S. military wanted scouts and people to help them as they're fighting the Lakota out there in western South Dakota. So our men had to give up coming here to enjoy our new homelands and go out there and serve. And because of that, we have a homeland. Some of them didn't even never get to see our home. That's why we honor them every year at the annual powwow, is the sacrifice they made so that we could have a home. So with all of that love that they had for us, we got to take care of our home. And we got to protect it. So I'm always watchful. Right away, when I heard that Mid-Americans trying to dump coal ash into the Missouri River, I questioned the permit. And that's on our radar with our general counsel. And also, when we were told approach for those carbon pipelines, and we saw the border of it was going to be on our northern part of our reservation, we questioned that permit. And we also looked at, to the Corps of Engineers, we want an environmental impact study if they think they're going to drill under the Missouri River, because this is our water. So I don't want to go on and on and on, but you guys know that's how I think. I'm a Mother Earth protector, a Winnebago protector. I ain't scared of anybody or anything except my big sister. I'm scared of my sister, Cheryl. Okay. My Indian name is Tawigmu Iyoyampawi. My mother's Lakota, and that is, may her rainbow always be bright. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sunshine Thomas Bear, and I'm running as a write-in. Oh, can everybody hear me? I'm running as a write-in for the Winnebago Tribal Council on Tuesday. And just a little bit about me. I was adopted by Charlie and Eva Bear. And my biological parents are Louise Thomas and Wilbur Wolf. And their parents are Dave Cleveland and Cynthia Baker, and Bernard Thomas and Irma Rose Kelsey. I am Bear Clan, and I am currently the THIPO, the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, the NAGPRA rep, the Cultural Preservation Director, and the Angel Decorah Museum Director for the tribe, which I love. I love my job, and I love being able to work in the capacity that I work in. But it also showed me that there are a lot of things that our people need help with, and I'm hoping to be able to help guide our people and listen to and give voice back to our people so that they are able to feel connected to the issues that we face, but also allow us as a whole to help lead our way forward toward self-sufficiency of our tribe, but also we are facing very tough decisions. One of the main things that I know that we discuss is enrollment, which is very important to me as a person, as a grandmother. And I think that none of us will be escaping the issues that will come forward to us if we don't make the correct decisions in future for our future generations. And I don't want it to be something that we put a Band-Aid on and, our children have to deal with it 2 to 3 generations from now. I think it's something that we need to tackle now. Um, and there are a ton of other issues, our language and culture. Is at the forefront for me. We have a very limited amount of fluent speakers in our community. Um, we have our immersion classroom, but that's only one classroom, and it's not enough. And there are so many issues that we face as a community, but I think one of the things that really hold us back is the lateral oppression that we all see. Sometimes we participate in it, but I think that the best way to move forward is to um, help heal each other, not be so divisive. Is that the word? And work together. There's so much anger that I see a lot of times against each other, and there's no need for that. And, you know, everybody running for council, it seems like we're all enemies, and people are talking about this and that, I hate to see us holding each other back. What I want to see is that we are here, 5 generations from now, and I won't see that, but my, great great grandchildren will see that. And I want them all to still be here and still have their language and their culture and still be able to celebrate who they are. And I think that finding who you are is I've currently been doing for a while, and I'm nowhere near what I need to know. I would be the first person to say that I know very little about everything that I need to know for our language and culture. But I think we need to move together as one and, really set aside the things that are holding us back. This government was not set up for us. It's not something that we used pre-colonization, and it has really taken its toll on us as a people. And I think that it's really pulled us away from who we are. We're trying to run in a system that wasn't made for us or designed for us. And there's many things that are, have gone to the back burner, like our food sovereignty, working together, our healthcare, education, law enforcement. There's so many issues that we face today. And it seems like all we do lately is argue about money, but are we going to be here in 5 generations? With the current blood quantum issues that we face, we won't be. And it's scary for me to think about that as our future for all of our grandchildren. Okay. And I just am hoping that everyone can look at wanting to change and wanting to think of the future and not just next year, but futures generations from now.
Kini Kadagi, I greet you. My name is Elizabeth Vare. I'm my Ho Chunk name is Eagle Feather, Yellow Eagle Feather, and I'm a member of the Eagle Clan. I was born and raised on the reservation. I am a Hino, the firstborn daughter. My mother is Cecilia Earth, and my father is the late Timothy Little Walker, adopted name Bear. And my grandparents are Lillian Decorah Earth, Herman Brown Sr., and my mother was claimed by Charles Earth. My paternal grandparents are Lois Cleveland and Steve Little Walker. I have 5 sons, and while growing up, I always stressed education is the key. Today, my children have been successful and learned to reach their full potentials and goals by going to college and getting their education. I have 2 sons that have graduated with their bachelor's degrees, and 1 is still pending. And I have 2 in high school. Myself, I have attended Nebraska Indian Community College, Little Priest Tribal College, Wayne State, and Bellevue University. I've worked for the Winnebago tribe 15 plus years. And in several positions, I have gained the knowledge and experience that would prepare me for a successful tribal council leader and work for my people. That's what I really stress is being here for you. I'm your voice, and I will represent you fully in any way I can. If you have any questions for me, contact me. I'm here, and that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eugene Decora Sr. Just wanted to thank all the candidates for coming to the forum. Want to thank Little Priest Tribal College for putting on the forum, the good meal that was provided. Thank you, Jack, for your prayer. I just wanted to come to this forum today and just maybe give a little explanation on why I chose to run for a tribal council seat this time around. I think a good leader should also be a good servant. And that's one thing that I've been doing for the past 20 years in our community, 20 plus years. Some of the first youth that I got a chance to coach are even sitting in this room today. And they are leaders in our community as well. And I think everybody wants to ask, well, you just work with youth or you only know the youth side of things. But with 20 years of experience, um, you got to realize that working with youth isn't just coaching a basketball game. It's not just getting jerseys on these kids. No, you're working with families. You're understanding where they're coming from. You're understanding the economic issues that they're facing, their housing issues. You're working with grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody that's struggling to want better things for their children. And if it's anything, that's what I have to stand on is the work of my family, the way that we have been within this community, everything that like what my father does, what my mother does, my sisters, my brother, um, my wife, my children, even, the way that we approach our service to this community is something that's from the heart and something that we feel is for the benefit of all. It's never for ourselves. It's nothing that we're doing is here to benefit ourselves and make ourselves into better than anybody else or nothing like that. But we're always looking forward to seeing growth within our membership at a younger age that are also turning into adults. That's one thing that I've tried to talk about and preach was that, I don't care how many ball games we win. I don't care how many, how much accolades they have. Are they good people? Are they good parents? Are they good fathers? That's one of the biggest things that I like to take away from children that I've worked with in the past. A woman by the name of, you guys might know her, Donna Vandell. That's one thing she said. She said, when you work with youth and you go into these fields, because I've worked in multiple fields among youth, whether it comes down to juvenile justice, I've also worked at Enrollment, working with up at YCIC, even working with Project Boshkapi, those different fields. She said, you're never going to be able to save everybody, but if you're able to reach out and help one or two, that's a life well spent as service to your to your community. So I just wanted to mention that and thank you again.
Thank you everyone for introducing yourselves and being respectful of the time limit, which is still going, so I'll cancel that. So, as I said, this forum is for the candidates, but it's also for the students. And so I'm going to ask the students to come up here, like over here by the railing, that have questions. I'm going to have you ask the council questions. So, anybody have any particular order they want to go in? If nobody wants to go first, I can go. Then we'll just go down the line.
What are your plans for helping the homelessness issues on the reservation? Okay. Do I start at the beginning? Okay.
First of all, thank you for the question. I don't know your name, so I can't respond to you individually. Are you, your name is? That's what I thought, but just say it out loud. With that, when you get used to speaking in front of people, introduce yourself so they know who you are in that way, because that was said to me many times, and you'll get more and more comfortable with it. So, as a former, and maybe I shouldn't even say it that way, as an alumni of this institution, I went to this school and I graduated from it. So, the seats that you guys fill as students, I was once sitting in, and I want you guys to know that. So, thank you guys for stepping up and helping host this today. But to get to your question with homelessness, for a number of years, the Tribal Council has recognized the need for housing here in Winnebago. In my first term, when I was elected in 2008, I sat in front of the council at that time in our retreat, which was held in South Sioux City, and I asked them the general question, what are the problems that we face as a tribe and as a people? And I said, I don't want you to try to solve it, just what do you see from your individual positions? And the 8 other members gave me front and back on a legal-sized yellow notepad items that they saw as what we needed to work on. The reason why I did that, and to get to answering your question, is that at that time I recognized the tribe was always concentrated on putting out fires over here or putting out fires over there, dealing with an emergency that was over here, or they were never able to focus on what needed to be done. So I created and presented to the council, which they then approved, the 5 prioritized areas. And those were youth, elders, education, jobs, and housing. With those 5 priorities, the council was finally able to focus its efforts on how it was going to create solutions in all of those areas that were listed on those pages. So you're asking about housing in general. From that point, the council enacted very specific activities that required the construction, the renovation, or basically the capturing of housing no matter where it was on our reservation. Of course, you've seen that now over the past even plus decade, pushing 15, 18 years, because the efforts have been focused to help create a solution toward the housing needs that we have. Have we reached all of the housing? No, we have not, because that process is ongoing. The need is great. But at the same time, until we had a plan to actually do something about it, nothing meaningful was getting done. But now we've established well over 100 different housing units for our people here on the reservation at various locations, whether that was new construction, whether that was renovation, or buying an existing property. And that effort continues to move forward because the council makes sure that what is necessary and what needs to be done is done. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would just like to start by saying I'd prefer to call them unsheltered relatives. And one of the things that I think is unique to Indian country is we don't consider our people homeless all the time because they're living with relatives or um, they're unsheltered and they might be transient even. So all different levels of homelessness exist in our community. Um, Actually, when I was on at the table, I don't know if it was 16 or 17, but the men's shelter was started, and that was through the Winnebago Reformed Church, and there were folks there that saw fit that we needed a men's shelter. And the first thing I said was, "What about the women and children?" And they said, "Well, it's very often that the men are displaced from the home as a result of hardships, and so right now we're able to help the men out." And so it always bothered me that we were thinking of that first, I guess, because very often there would be families coming in distress looking for, they call it emergency housing, but emergency housing in our reservation doesn't exist. They show up and they're like, I need a place to stay, I need a house. Or sometimes they come from, living off the reservation for a while, and their expectation is that when they get here that they're going to be provided a home. And knowing that all of our housing lists, from our HUD entities to our Ho-Chunk capital properties, the tax credit projects, which is Little Priest and Warrior, those lists are long, and you have to maintain yourself on that list. One thing I learned is if you don't update every 6 months with one of the programs, you're to the bottom of the list. And so we need to talk about this more so that people know how to be successful in trying to secure housing. And one thing that I mentioned also is that housing stability looks different for all of us. Some of us want to buy a home. Some of us just need something to rent. Some of us are very comfortable with a tiny home. And so that kind of new wave of tiny home, that's exciting because it seems attainable, something that we could just, put some down. But all that takes resource. And I mentioned that I have the FY24 budget here. And these additional programs, these additional services, they all require resources. So very often we're looking for federal resource or state resource because our appropriations budget is limited. And so we have more work to do in that direction. The domestic violence program currently manages the women's shelter. I think we need new bricks and mortar, and we need to actually make that a priority and say that's where we want to fund. Just the other day, we were talking about the Winnebago ticket, where you could donate your change or your winnings or however they do that. And it was like, okay, well, let's line up all these things that we want to do and put them on that rotation. And there's ways that we can kind of accomplish these things, and it doesn't have to be such a so left out. So I just want to say that there are ongoing efforts, but we could do more. And right now, actually, they need more than just a place to stay. They need behavioral health services. They need drug and alcohol treatment. And it's not just that they're homeless. There's all these other things going on. When people come to the table for help with their rent or that they were evicted or whatever they need, it's because something else is going on. And so we need to acknowledge that and really triage that from the root cause analysis on what's going on with this relative that we can get them off their feet. I don't want to just put somebody at the men's shelter and then leave them there. What are we doing to reacclimate them to this community, get them a job, help them get back with their family? I don't know, whatever it looks like to be happy and healthy, we need to help the unsheltered relatives get there. Thank you.
Everything she said, I would have said. No, this ain't. This is a very serious concern that we have is our relatives that are having a hard time and don't have a home. And everything she said of what we've been doing in the past 3 years, we actually are slated to build 30 new houses up there behind the South Cali. Starting this year, fiscal year, with 10. And we want them to be low income and at least 4 bedrooms and more because our families are growing. And so that's one of the things that we were able to do and have the resources to. And but one of the challenges as you're looking for places for more housing for our people is the water and sewer infrastructure on our reservation. It's over 50 years old. And you guys remember that water break we had, and we've been having water breaks? The water and sewer system has been under the village of Winnebago, and they haven't really done any maintenance or replacing old pipes or old. And so we're seeing the breaks now. So if we want to build more houses, we have to be also replacing the infrastructure, water and sewer. But since it's under the village, so we have a petition going around. You guys saw that, what I wrote? We have a petition going around. Please sign it if you're a Village of Winnebago voter. And it's to call for a special election. And when the special election, the question is going to be, should the Village of Winnebago turn the water and sewer assets and operation back to the Winnebago tribe? If the voters vote yes, they have to turn it back to us. And we're following state law on this. And we're already ready to assume that. We budgeted for that for fiscal year 2024. We're going to have our own water operators. We already do. And we're going to also have our maintenance lines to fix our lines, replace those old pipes. And you're going to be billed what you actually use, not some average, because the village doesn't have meters in all our units like they said they would. So it's not we're going to build those 30 new homes over the next couple of years, starting in fiscal year 2024 with 10 that we can keep finding the money for, and this will continue. And then we have to work on taking over the water and sewer. So, and once we get that water treatment plant back, we have another plant that's gonna go next to it called reverse osmosis water system. And that's those big bottled waters people buy for drinking water. That's what's gonna be coming out of our faucets. Thank you.
Um, Thank you for your question, Emily. I have been writing some things down regarding this issue. I agree with some of the things that were said. I myself have been homeless. I had made choices. I am a alcohol and drug addict in recovery, going on 12 years. But I had been evicted and I was homeless with my children, and I have 8 children. And it was really hard at that time, but I think that that was also a blessing in disguise for me that helped me figure out what I needed to do as a person. And, at that time, there was nothing that could help me. So I ended up moving to Emerson. I found a place in South Sioux that was able to help me. And through that, I lived in Emerson for 5 years, but it was tough, and it helped me grow. And I think it was the growth that I needed as a person, and I needed to get away. Being in recovery at the time, maybe if I were here, I wouldn't have been able to hold on to my recovery. So that was something that really helped me. But homelessness is a big issue here in our community. But like was said previously, what are the issues that arose for that person to be in this situation? For me, it was drinking and bad decisions, and ultimately my children had to pay for that. So I slowly grew and had people that believed in me at the time and gave me opportunities. Like Randy Decora, he was one of the first people to see that I was trying to get on my feet. And, I had so many issues. And I think that, you know, that that is the issue for a lot of us. I needed mental health care. I needed, drug and alcohol counseling. I needed to be able to focus on myself, to learn who I was and what I had lost in all those years of using. Um, and throughout the community, I mean, we all see and have relatives that suffer from this epidemic of drug and alcohol abuse and other issues that go on in our community. And behind all that, is a lot of historical trauma that we face as a people. And um, I think that when you look at homelessness, it is a very, there's a lot that goes into it in trying to fix that. It is the need for better health care, mental health care, um, drug and alcohol counseling, helping someone to learn how to take care of their home. And am I done? Okay. I have a lot more to say, but yeah, I'm done.
Thank you for your question, Emily. I currently I work for the tribe and I work for tribal member services. And I currently see a lot of things that come across my table. And that's one of the, uh, it's real hard to see our tribal members go through all these things, and one of them being homeless. And like others said up here, there's other what do you call it? Like things that are behind it, the alcohol, drug, the mental health issues that we all face. And so with that being said, I would I wish that we can provide or find grants or funding to where we can provide homes, affordable homes for our tribal members. And And Lorelai did mention the infrastructure of the water, and it is 50 years old. And I do have a petition, and I would like, if anybody would like to sign it, it was to remove the village members. Um, and and I am behind the Winnebago tribe and support that fully. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. For to clarify your question about issue of homelessness, are you talking about more of the individuals kind of around town that don't have homes, or are you talking about like families that have to stay together at one home? Okay, thank you. So, to help answer that, I guess just a little bit, with his permission, I have a story that goes along with this, and it just recently happened within the past 3 or 4 months. A relative of mine, a recovering alcoholic, living in Omaha, doing well for himself, had a really good job, had himself a girlfriend, and all this, and then a crisis happened between the two of them. He was removed from his home in Omaha, and then he came back to Winnebago to his home, and there was nothing for him here. There was no help for him. He reached out to our own hospital and tried to receive the same medication that he was receiving down in Omaha, and they would refused it. They refused to give it to him. They told him it's a narcotic, and we don't do that here. It's a long-term narcotic. You only have to take 1 shot a month. Well, in spite of that, it led him back into drugs and alcohol, which also led him back into homelessness because he did not want to be around the relatives while he was using and doing those type of things. Those are the kind of my own relative messaging me saying, "Hey, will you buy this for this much? Will you buy this for this much? Can you help me with this?" And we, as a family, we did the best we could. Well, and again, in our own community, there are systems in place right now set up to help people that don't have a place to go every evening. But the issues that he told me that do exist for him was that when he would step up to the halfway house, they would tell him, "Well, you're not sober. You got to go get sober first." So he did that. Then he returned and they told him, "Well, there's not enough beds here." Well, why not? The supposedly facility can hold like 12 to 15 people, but because they're so short staffed, they only want to have 4. They don't want to work too hard, they told him. So, looking at our own systems that exist here in the community, even with the men's shelter, he went and lived at the men's shelter and he was sober during that time when he first moved back. But he had a small relapse, told him he couldn't stay there. They put all his stuff outside the door and said, "Here you go, come pick it up." So, like I said, there are systems in our own community that exist, but what I feel like it is a lack of labor force. Because if there was a full staffed facility there that does exist, then why wasn't he able to receive the help all that everybody needs? I kind of peel off of Sunshine's story, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. But why did she have to go out of town to receive help? Why did she have to go to a community that's not even our own to receive help and uh, help her get back on her feet? That's a prime example of what um, we hope to accomplish at a table. As tribal leaders, we all have to realize the issues that's facing. It's not just my relative; it's our relatives that go through these issues. And so that's what I hope to expand on. I guess is just to make sure that our our um, our our businesses or our programs that are there are actually fully staffed.
Hello, I'm Dina, flute player. I am a Winnebago tribal member, originally from Sioux City, so I'm kind of new to the area. So, my question is for the forum: what business ideas do you have to have the tribe keep self-sufficiency aside from casinos?
Again, thank you for that question. I started as a blackjack dealer on January 3rd, 1993. And my primary background and experience since that point has been in gaming. So this is a very interesting question to me because obviously that is something that I can talk about till the end of time. But with that being said, the ideas that you're asking about have to come in different forms. And as members of the council, the responsibility that we have is to create the opportunities for the tribal members, meaning that we stand behind not just hiring them, going back to what I talked about in the last segment, jobs is one of the 5 prioritized areas, but educating them, getting them experience, actually promoting them, and then allowing them to grow into their positions. Because if we look back what has happened here in the Winnebago tribe in a very real way, again, from my early days as a blackjack dealer in 1993, there were very few individuals in the tribe who knew anything about gaming, had absolutely no awareness whatsoever. Only a small handful, less than 5 that I can remember, that had any kind of knowledge or experience on what goes on in a casino. My point being in saying that to you is each of us were taught, each of us were given an opportunity, and each of us were endowed with the ability to take the opportunity that was open to everyone of age to come get a job and learn and advance through that system. Winnevegas is primarily the main driver of everything that has happened here in Winnebago in the modern era. Not just because of the revenue that it creates, which is extremely important, but because of the opportunity. I am an individual who has had that opportunity and was able to take advantage of it and raise through the ranks and basically move in the directions that I have moved. So when we're talking about business, it's the idea of the tribal members that matters. It is our responsibility, though, as leaders to make sure that the opportunity exists and that it is a genuine opportunity and not just something on paper so a picture can be taken of you and say, oh, look at our Indians, because that happens as well. What we need to make sure is that our own people are given the chance, just like our others in the past have so, but most importantly, to where so many opportunities were given to non-Winnebagos, that needs to be given and happen with our own people. So when you're talking about what ideas do we have, I'd rather know what are your ideas, and it's my job to make that possible. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question? Will you repeat the question so I answer it? It was, what businesses will you start?
What business ideas do you have to have the tribe keep self-sufficiency aside from casinos?
Thank you. Cannabis. In a couple years ago, Ho Chunk Farms was able to participate in a pilot program by the state of Nebraska. And they were able to grow some hemp and to learn some things on what would work in our area and how they could, obviously profit from that. And I think in the meantime, one of the distribution companies has a contract to roll cigs for Meskwakis. The tribal council that I sit with started the hemp commission and started trying to exercise our sovereignty in that direction. And so we have a full hemp commission that's been meeting. They're the regulatory body. They're the regulatory body that licensed Ho Chunk Farms to do their activity. And we did it promptly. They were like, hey, we need this done. Did it right away because we knew that was going to be good for the tribe. And we need to, all the effort and resource that went into passing gaming in Nebraska needs to be done for cannabis. And we haven't done that yet. We haven't made it our #1 legislative priority to be in Lincoln and talking to the folks that are the hemp constituents or the cannabis constituents. And I also want to mention that it's medicine, and it's the federal government that has demonized this plant for not only its fiber components, but also its medicinal components. There are states all around us that have medical cannabis programs. There are states around us that have recreational programs. And it's in our country, it's starting to be socially acceptable to use that as a medicine, to use that as to build houses even. There's hempcrete. So there's countless possibilities in hemp. But I want to share with you, in maybe it's 2015, under the leadership of Chairwoman Darla LaPointe, I attended a conference in California, and I believe that conference is still held. Our hemp commission went this year. And from there, I met some presenters and I brought them to the community just to kind of like baby step into it, because at that time, people weren't comfortable with it. And it's grown since then in people's understanding and comfort level. But noting that it's happening all around us, South Dakota now has a legal cannabis program, and the Crow Creek Reservation has a program. At a recent health board meeting, I was able to hear about the success of their program in a short time. In this short time, they only have medical right now, and after harvest, they will go rec. In their first round of revenue, they bought all their tribal members a $50,000 life insurance policy. Right now, with the Winnebago tribe, each tribal member has a $5,000 life insurance policy. And you know that when the relatives pass on, that, you know, they get that and helps with bills or helps with whatever needs to be taken care of. But these are the kinds of things that expanding our horizons and in some ways stepping into a still controversial business, it's worth the revenue and it's worth the impact that it's going to bring. Not only were they able to buy life insurance policies, they were able to fund a clothing allowance. Additionally, they purchased 20 tiny homes that they put down immediately, and they started with priority elders, veterans. Last thing, their painkillers prescribed were down 30% in their clinic. And that's proof that this was successful for their tribe, not only in revenue, but also in the health of their people. And I would like that for Winnebago.
1 second before the next question, I was asked by a community member for everybody to speak up louder. So yeah, this room isn't exactly great for sound sometimes. All right.
Okay, I want to just say thank you to the Little Priest students for having this forum. It's really good to see our young people busy, thinking. This is our future. We're going to all get old and die, and you guys are coming up. But I just want to say I look at business in a little bit different way, like an Indian. This pandemic taught us that we have to be more prepared to be able to feed ourselves as a people. We found that out. So to me, generating business really means feeding our people. And so I really support the work of the food sovereignty movement that we have in the tribe. The planting out there at our farm of the fruits and vegetables, our farmers market, our corn, our very sacred corn, is back in the community being grown by us, dried by us. And we have it as for when we need it. So to me, feeding ourselves is another way of looking at business. Because that's what we do if we're earning money from a business, is we're feeding ourselves. But the world is changing out there. And we really need to continue supporting our food sovereignty movement. And we also, us Winnebago people, we were a planting people. So the corn, beans, and squash is in our spirit. And also, past tribal leaders envisioned Ho-Chunk Incorporated, our companies, and they are doing very successful, generating jobs. I know that we have at least 100 of our tribal members working in their companies, in our companies. And they're making money, and the revenue's coming down to the tribe. And they're helping build houses out there. Do you guys see those beautiful new senior units? I'm so proud of those, so our seniors can have a nice, comfortable home. And they have solar panels on them to keep the cost of the heating and cooling down. And so I'm not saying I had those ideas. I'm saying I support the ongoing work. And we have to continue all these different efforts because it's our people who benefit. Thank you.
I'm going to try to be faster this time. For self-sufficiency, thank you for your question. The various ideas that came to me while I was sitting here, we have many entities that are in our community, the hospital, HCI, administrative jobs. We have LPTC as well, and an increase in degree options. And they are also going into trades. Um, Farming, I'm a very passionate about farming. I love to garden. And I think that food sovereignty and making our community self-sufficient would increase job opportunities. And for those types of things to happen, there would be various needs throughout the community, like an area for compost. I really think people should get into composting. Truly recycling. I don't know where our recycling stuff goes, but I don't think it's really to the recycling bin. um, Small business owners and a focus on helping our small business owners and those that want to be small business owners. As our community begins to grow with housing and families moving home, there's going to be needs for many different things, which is what I was going to say at the previous question. We would need more cops, more healthcare, um, more employment places for everyone moving home. But to get to get to that point, we would need to invest in our youth and our employment, developing our own, preparing our youth to be in positions to work and to care for our tribe in their future. More opportunities, career pathways, leadership training, skill training, financial literacy, making sure our pay is good and that our people aren't just living paycheck to paycheck. There's a lot of investment that goes into being able to be self-sufficient. So I think that when we do truly start becoming self-sufficient, that would increase the job rate for job openings for our people. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your question. I would like to say that I would like to know all the tribal members' ideas, and let's focus on that and go from there to try to create different opportunities for ourselves, our tribal members, and our community. I sit on the hemp commission, and I'm proud of it. And that's one of the, I agree with what Tori said. That's one of the opportunities where what we should invest in. And it's we're slowly, gradually getting there, but hopefully we can get to that point where we can go to the state level. And um, I guess I'm fully support of all tribal members that are willing to create businesses and be successful.
Thank you for your question. So your question being, what is the ideas so that we have more pillars of income beyond gambling or casinos and whatnot? But I feel like within our own community, you see the need for the workforce to have our specialists, right? Electricians, um, concrete. You look at all our different issues that our tribe has, and with so much building happening within the community, I feel like if we were able to build up our own people enough where, hey, we have our own concrete company, and that's going to bring in income for the tribe. We have our own businesses within this community that are based out of the tribe itself. Yes, we have HCI. Yes, they do make money, but how does the tribe as a whole create pillars of income that it can stand on? So that way you can increase funding to workforce. You can increase funding to programming. You can increase funding for youth. If we don't create that within ourselves, then we're kind of setting up for failure in itself. We can't just lean on HCI and say, hey, fix everything for us. The tribe itself has to stand on its own 2 feet. We have to figure out ways to build up our workforce. And I mainly think about our youth and the ones coming out of high school, or those that are still in that age right now where they're defining themselves and trying to figure out what job you're going to get into when you get to that level, and creating leaders from that. And like I said, always pushing for trades. That's something that, I've talked with a lot of at-risk youth, and that's one thing that this community is sorely lacking. Do you guys know how much we spend on Rasmussen? Down at Whirling Thunder, we have to call them in to turn our heaters on. We have to tell them to come in and turn our AC on, and it's a hefty bill every time we have to call them. And it literally just for the lack of that, we don't have a master HVAC person. So developing somebody in that route and having those people so that way we can call on our own and make sure that they're able to have sustainable jobs. When you guys graduate for college, the goal should always be that you guys can walk into a job that you can advance at and that you can always be getting better at, and that you have enough money to go buy one of these homes that is going to be built, and then you can raise a family. That should be a goal for as a tribal council, or even just as a person. That's a goal that you always want for the people. You want that for them, and you hope that they can attain that. And the tribe as a whole should be pushing as a goal for everybody. Thank you.
Hinikaragiwi. My English name is Tyler Free Lemire. My real name is Honchpiga, which means good bear. My grandparents are Jack and Emma Lemire and Delmer and Patricia Free. And I am a Little Priest Tribal College student representative political body presidential candidate, and am now a student senate member. My question for you is, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing our community, and how do you plan to address this? Thank you.
Tyler, choosing one, it's a pretty big question there, because obviously there is not just one. And so with that being said, my answer, I want that to be made aware between you and I as we're having this discussion. That is not my only area of concern or my only area of focus. The biggest challenge that we have here from the tribal perspective, because we're talking about sitting at our tribal council, is creating the environment to where a healthy and robust dialogue can be held without the distraction of, I disagree with you, so I hate you. This last 3 years has shown me that exact scenario. Now, while there are very, very many and varied items that we could quite easily go down the roads of with this, it is that I'm going to offer here. Because when our tribe cannot speak amongst its membership without saying, you don't belong here, we need to get rid of you, that is the least tribal thing I can think of. In my upbringing and in my raising, I was taught that there is enough room for all of us in the circle. I asked our enrollment department for an updated number. There are 5,670 of us, and that number just went up last week. So when there are 5,670 people in a circle, they are not meant to agree. They should actually robustly disagree, because then that is when the better decisions are made. For too long, our leadership has allowed itself to fall victim to that type of mentality, meaning that if you disagree with someone, you hate them or they hate you. The realities are that is what the process is about. I started our discussion here today. We are one of 9 at that table. You have to learn how to not only express what you need to represent your position around the table for the people, but also to hear what is being brought forward. This deliberative council that I'm a part of, I'm extremely proud to be a part of, simply because that has become our reality. Is that my 5? Okay. 3? Okay, so with that being said, I got a couple more. I don't want us to lose sight of that, because we are not going to be able to effectively deal with, mitigate, reach solutions toward any of the other problems until we're comfortable with understanding people have different points of view. They have different levels of motivation. Sometimes those are easy to see, sometimes they are not. So any part of the discussion that we're going to continue to have here today, or what will continue around that council table, that is what I wish would change. Because the outside influences here in the community and here amongst the tribal members, that is carried far too heavily. The council understands how to talk to itself. Trust me and believe in that. And there are even arguments. I'm sitting here with 2 ladies that I have vehemently disagreed with. But by the same token, I have agreed with 1,000,000%. Does that mean that because we disagreed, I hate them? No, I want them to be reelected. That's what I'm talking about. What comes out of those 9 people must be a true representation of all 5,670 of us. And if some people don't agree with that, then that's what it's supposed to be. But I want to see us move past that. Thank you.
So 3 minutes total? Okay. I think going back to the historical trauma, our biggest challenge is behavioral health services and access to them. Several years ago, the public health department did a survey. They had a grant. They did a survey in the Black Hawk Center, and if you did it, you got a gift card. And they were checking ACE scores, adverse childhood experiences. And when you go through that, there's these like 10 questions, and it's really going to a place of maybe even triggering trauma. And what those, it's like questions like, I don't want to go into them, but things about personal hardship, like do you have a relative incarcerated? Were you molested? Did you lose a parent? All these things. And then it's like, yes, 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 yes. And we find that all this trauma happened to our people, and we're walking around with it, and we're unhealed, and we're teachers, we're council people, we're firefighters, we're administrators, we're all those things. But our trauma goes back to 1816 when our tribe signed the first peace and friendship treaty with the federal government. And there was a separation from the tribe at that time. They're like, oh, you guys are good, you go over here, you guys are bad, stay away from them. And that was the first trauma that we experienced as a tribe. And from there, we signed 11 total treaties that systematically tried to erase us as a people. And the federal policies that tried to take away who we were as Indian people came, over these next 100 years. And so we're still unraveling that, but before we can unravel it, we have to acknowledge it. And we have to say that we're sick. Like, why are we so hateful? Why are they jealous? Like, why can't we be happy for everybody? That's that sickness. That's that trauma that's still within us, that it's even hard for us to acknowledge. It's even hard for us to, a painful place that we want to go to. And so we have to destigmatize behavioral health services, get them out of the basement, get them up into the community, and start doing things that people just learn how to be happy, I think that's the number one thing that we don't spend enough time on is happiness. And so I just want to share that we have a lot of work to do, but we got a lot of healing to do. And nothing's going to be good if we're not healthy and we're not happy, because you carry that burden, you carry that toxicity, and it comes out in forms that you don't even recognize. Like, you might be scrolling through your Facebook and somebody's sharing something real good. You're like, gee, they think they're real good. Like, why come we're not happy for them? Everybody like and love that one. So, that's there's things inside of us that we don't even understand. And so I hope that we can heal as a community. I hope we can acknowledge those things. And kind of what Brian was alluding to, that's part of that, we don't have to hate each other if we disagree. We don't have to lose relatives over this, you know, like, so I just hope that we can come together and love each other.
Okay, you guys, I've been in the American Indian movement since I was 17 years old. And back then, and even today, the biggest challenge that I have seen us have to take on is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They just continue to bring us down. And it's all their policies. Like right today, they still owe a lease to the Winnebago tribe, a renewed lease to the Winnebago tribe. And they're dragging their feet. They also mess with our land and our food sovereignty people by their policies. We had to fight them off on behalf of our Ho-Chunk farms and our Ho-Chunk ag because they were thinking they could tell us a letter of credit for when we're going to do a crop. And that's their policy. So we have a tribal policy. We had to fight them off on that. It's every time we turn around and try to do something with our land or on our reservation, some bureaucrat over there. And what's really sad about it is this, we can't blame the white people, it's Indians. So that's the biggest challenge that I have seen in these past 3 years that I've been on the council. And I don't want to cuss, but it's the BIA. And now we're getting ready to go take over under self-governance, the BIA law enforcement. I don't even want to go into all the problems with them. We're getting ready to do that. It's time. So I just want to tell you that. So it's the BIA. And I love that song that this singer back in the day, his name was Floyd Westerman. He had this song and it was called BIA, I'm Not Your Indian Anymore. That's who I think is the biggest challenge I've seen. Thank you.
Okay, so the biggest challenge that I think we face as a people is the revitalization of our language and culture. Something that my dad used to always say is that once we lose our language, we're no longer the Winnebago people. And I firmly believe that. Culturally, there's so much that goes into culture that it could encapsulate, many different things in our community, finding our way back to our culture and our language. And I think as leaders, we should be at the forefront of learning our language and showing up and being there to show that this is important to all of our people. Like the corn that we did a couple weeks ago, that's like my favorite thing to do every year. And a lot of us don't have the land to plant our own corn, so that's the only time that we can participate is when that happens down there. But there's many different things, like each of us are different clans, and the clan duties that come with our culture and being able to uphold those duties. When a long time ago, pre-colonization, when those duties were upheld, we all took care of each other as a people. So I think that finding our way back to our language and culture is, our biggest challenge that we face. A long time ago, and you could even add enrollment into that, we weren't people that used enrollment. That was a system of eugenics that was installed by the government to decrease us and eventually eliminate us as a population. We went by descendancy, and it was something that worked for us for thousands of years. We have stories, Ho-Chunk stories that go back, when during the glacier period, and that's how far back our people went. And our our creation story and everything that we have in oral history that I've been learning. And that was all through our culture. And that wasn't something that we depended on, enrollment. We survived thousands of years without it. And why are we continuing to use it? But also into our culture is, how we take care of our food, how we take care of ourselves, and how we take care of each other. And I think that to me is the biggest challenge that we face as a community.
Thank you for your question. What do you think is the biggest challenge facing our community, and how do you plan to address this? There is a lot of challenges within our tribe and our tribal organization. So it's hard to be specific and answer, one. Um, One of them that I would like to address as well is culture, language, and our tradition. How do we believe? What do we believe? And what do we want to teach our young children? And that's important to me in learning our history and who we are, what clan we are, our language. And I worked for the language program as a community outreach person. And I'm very proud that I work there as well. It gave me the opportunity to learn our language and to teach, to know where the little ones, sit. And the one thing about I'm proud of as well is the classroom that we have at the Winnebago Public School and the children learning. You go in there and you see the children speaking the language and knowing their culture. It's awesome. It's just like, oh my God, they know all this stuff. So that's one of my things that I am really passionate about for our people is the culture, language, and tradition.
Thank you for your question. So, like we said, Brian brought it up earlier, it's a challenge in itself to figure out what's the biggest challenge the community faces. Everybody lives our lives according to what we want from this life. Um, uh, our community's grown so much since I was a child, and I feel within the past 20 years, the expansion that the tribes had, and even where we're standing today in this building, that's a big testament to those who served on the council before us, John D., Jim Snow, my Choker Eugene. People along those lines are a reason why we're even here today. And I feel like with that growth and expansion that the community is going to have, even in the next 10, 15, 20 years, um, trying to align our cultural, spiritual, traditional beliefs along with it and helping that grow as well. But uh, in my opinion, what's our biggest, it's going to be where do we go from here? How do we continue to grow? Where's our growth going to take us? Is it going to be more of a positive effect? And are we going to grow to the fact where we can all be self-sustainable as families? Can we be self-sustainable as a tribe, food sovereignty? All those kind of things fall hand in hand when the economic growth within the tribe grows in itself. We've come so far in such a short period of time. Addition to HCI, tribal council movements, the buildings that have been built, like I said, even having land of wellness, having Educare, having the vets building that got built, all those things were given thought and process. But like at this point where we are right now, where do we go next? What's the thought? Who has the ideas? Where's it going to come from to push us into that next generation? So that way, like I mentioned in my previous statement, when you guys do graduate college or anybody that's looking to advance themselves in their careers, where are we going now? What's going to be there for them? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eugene Decora, Jr. So the question is, what do you plan to establish and accomplish once you have your seat on council?
Three minutes. Thank you, Eugene. A very good question, because what it all comes down to is, what are you going to do? In the previous terms, obviously, the advancements that have been made are pretty clear and conspicuous. Some people choose to resume themselves. And while it is certainly there, that's not what I'm going to waste our time with here today. The proof is in the pudding. So, what is going to be established? What is going to be worked on? The continuation of the extremely important projects that are not yet finished. They were partially touched on here by the chairwoman and the secretary. To name them, the dialysis system needs to be brought forward, and we are very close to making that happen. And the movement away from the BIA law enforcement structure into a tribally controlled system. And that's going to take a ton of effort and a ton of awareness, acknowledgement, and work. But to add to that, I'm going to use this opportunity here to say the things that will be established if I'm reelected are the continued awareness that everything, and I mean everything, that uses, has used, will use the resources of the Winnebago tribe and the Winnebago people belongs to the Winnebago people. It will be the leadership, the elected leadership of our people who determine how and when those resources are used, because it is the collective vision of the 9 members of that council who represent all of us, who will make sure that all of us are the benefactors of everything we put forward. The specifics in that, like I said, can be laid out. But you're asking me the question, it's going to be to where the awareness is pushed forward, because there are efforts here in the tribe that are trying to make it sound like tribal members don't deserve what belongs to them. I don't believe that. I don't endorse that. If it has used the resources of our people, it will be the people who determine how and when the benefits of that are returned. The other side that I'm going to push into this with the few moments I have left are, I want to see us conspicuously move toward a lifetime learning effort through our education department, meaning that when a tribal member child is born, a representative literally either follows the family on the day they take the child from the hospital, gives them a file and say, we're going to help you plan your child's educational future. We're not going to tell you where to go. We're going to help you find the resources, whether it's here in town, whether you move off the reservation, or where you want to go. A lifetime educational process. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I wanted to detail some of the projects that are currently going on. Well, we finished the Anderson land purchase. It's been a priority of the tribe to buy back the reservation, to open up land for not only housing development, but other infrastructure, business development, farming expansion, all these things. So the tribal council did a historic movement and worked with Ho Chunk Farms, worked with the CFO, worked with Liberty National Bank on a way to get that land. And we're going to continue to buy land because these farmers, the next generation isn't going into farming. So we want to swoop that land back up and get it back into the tribe's hands for the tribal members' use. Right now, Thunderway LLC, WHDC agreement, okay, Thunderway LLC, you know those houses up at Thunderway? There's like 2 tracks. Some of them were thought to be rent to own and some of them were, outright purchase. Well, we're learning as some of those projects are coming to maturity, things aren't as we thought. And so we're working with those tribal members to figure out how much they owe. Can the tribe, help with making sure that that house that they thought they were paying on to be theirs is theirs. So that's important. Like that's what I mean. Like we can't let our tribal members get done wrong, whether it be by a program, whether it be by a federal funding source. And so that's really important, that those are families that are in jeopardy right now, and I want to finish that work. The Hearth Act, Lorelei touched on this. That's on our land leasing regulations. This is an ability for the tribe to take greater control of its land lease and step away from BIA. So I would like us to step more into the Hearth Act. The BIA law enforcement issues, these have been ongoing, and it's again just a willingness to acknowledge it and to have to be that critical person that has to say that this isn't good enough and the public safety of our reservation is in jeopardy. And so we're moving towards tribal law enforcement. The Winnebago Land Transfer Act. This one has been going on for 50 years, and I would say that this tribal council that I'm sitting with have moved it along more than it's ever been. We've had several iterations of the bill. It's called the Winnebago Land Transfer Act. And as you know, in the 1970s, the Army Corps legally condemned land on the Iowa side of the reservation. Well, we're trying to get that back. And we're trying to get that back in the name of Louis LaRose. He was the chairman when that land was taken. And so it is my goal to finish that and get that back. We have a bill that's gone through the House side and is waiting to be scored. We're working on a companion bill in the Senate. And so that's really important work that is continuous, constant. Our legal team is always in touch with these folks in DC. The Tribal Council has taken multiple delegations out there, and I'm gonna be sharing some of that on my Facebook, so check that out. State recognition of tribal EPC mental health commitment orders. Some of our relatives have mental health conditions, and sometimes they need assistance that is not available to them right now, like our law enforcement can't transfer them, or they're not gonna recognize that. So we have work to do with the state. Carlisle Filtration, Mid-American Cold Ash Dump, the water and sewer system that we talked about updating, and lastly, Winnebago Tribe and Thurston County. The tribe is in litigation right now, and we're in settlement discussions with Thurston County drawing maps that diluted the Indian vote. And so this tribal council stepped forward and went to Thurston County and is working with Native American Rights Fund to say, you're not gonna do that to the Winnebago tribe or the Omaha tribe. And we're gonna have voting districts that allow the tribal members to elect candidates of choice. And if you fix the maps in the districts, that'll never happen. So that's something that's really, maybe no one's not like watching that or monitoring that, but I can assure you that the Winnebago Tribal Council is. And so these are all the things that I want to continue working on that you might not be able to see in your everyday cruise by the tribal office, but I can assure you we're working really hard, and please allow me to continue.
I'm not going to repeat everything Tori said, but I'm right in there. uh, One of the things that we found out was when I got on this council 3 years ago was our codes that our people have to live under are really outdated. They should be there to help us, guide us, assist us. And they were at the time really being violated. Families, children were being removed. They didn't get to have a say in the court. And so we stepped up, and that's when we found out in our Constitution, it was assumed that there's a separation of the legislative from the judicial. And we found out that we don't have that in our Constitution. We have every right to direct the judicial to follow the laws. We don't have a separation of power in our Constitution. So that's what we did. And right now, we just are hiring a project, and we're going to be doing systematic code revision to correct those codes so they're serving our people rather than being used against us. So I just want to tell you that code revision project is also ongoing. And we've hired a Winnebago to head up our human service department so that the families, when their children are taken, they have a say. And where they're being placed, we have a say, so that they stay within the kinship system and not put off in Norfolk or some off-reservation place. Those are our children. So I'm just adding to what Tori was saying about the ongoing work we're working on. But I just want to tell you that I'm ready to keep going if you guys give me another chance. So thank you.
Thank you for the question. One of the things, and you know, none of this work can be done just alone as one person. It would take the council and the community to work together, be transparent, and communicate with each other to be able to make differences that are good for the community as a whole. But one of the things that I would like to establish and accomplish is the insurance that our tribe will be here in the future for our future generations, to work toward being fully self-sufficient throughout our community, to be fully prepared for emergencies in our community. I think that the COVID issue really opened my eyes to what we weren't prepared for as a community with emergencies like that. And the way that the world seems to be going, it seems that that would happen more often. To be a good leader for my people by leading through actions and not just words, um, by being able to show that language and culture is important to me, that these issues that face the community are important to me, and working with all of you to be able to help get us to where we need to be as a people. And to help us remember who we are and what a true leader is for the people. We work with and for you. We aren't someone that is above you. We're not no kings and queens of anything, and we should always treat our people with respect, and hope to get that same respect back and be someone that can help everyone, every family, not just one family or their friends, or, because you see a lot of that growing up, and I think that it's important for us to look at each other as a whole, not just me, myself, and my family, and to help tackle tough decisions like enrollment and other issues that face us that seem to be getting pushed to the back burner because no one wants to make those tough decisions, or we're unsure of what to do. But I think that I just want us to be here in the future. Many years from now, we're where we won't be, and to give all of our membership a voice. And that is one of the tough issues that gets pushed to the back burner, is giving all of our membership a voice. And I think that that could be help. We could help work our way through that through forums and different things. Okay. And just decolonization of the thinking of what a leader should be, and finding our way back to ourselves and our culture.
Thank you for your question, Eugene. I would just like to say that with all the tribal council leaders that we had in the past that set that foundation for us to where we're at today, I would like to keep going and keep moving forward. And we did move in a fast pace as a tribe. So all the things that are in place right now, that I would like to still continue to keep that going, and I'm here for you as a if elected, and I'm your voice, and I will pursue anything that you put in front of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Good question. So one thing that you, as a new, trying to become a new tribal council member, understanding that there is going to be a learning curve, and understanding that's going to have to come from the table, as mentioned by previous people speaking here today. It's going to take a group of 9 to help make a decision and move forward with that. But as far as in my own personal thoughts behind it about what I would like to try to establish and maintain while on the council, coming from my area of work, it would be to help support our youth programming. And this could also include, our summer daycare stuff and what's going on. There's 2 programs right now that service almost 200 kids over the summer, but that's still lacking. There's still kids out there that aren't making it into these programs to receive their care. Our after school care Right now, there are 60 slots open. Well, with walk-in wellness, I mean, you have more than that, but not everybody utilized walk-in wellness, and it does end at 4:30. Creating more programming so that we have more individuals working with youth, because we have to realize every day in our community there's an individual stepping up to work with youth. Even right now, there are individuals up on the hill that are working with youth right now, and understanding that they need support as well, whether it comes down to either their income or programming within the site, or funds to buy a certain program so that the kids can utilize that. And then creating more of a established base from tribal council's table to understand that they are there to support them. You look at our youth sports program that's being ran right now, and it's not just me, it's the parents that have stepped up to coach these individual kids, and everybody that's volunteering to do it. Um, Something's going right there, because even right now today there are more college students there on youth or sports scholarships right now than there ever has before. And I feel like that's a testimony to the youth work that's been done in this community. There are individuals in the room that have benefited from that, gone to college under a sports scholarship, and would come back home and wanted to continue the work. But I feel like as a tribal council member being established, it would be a voice for our youth, a voice for understanding of what these coaches are going through and what their needs are, and also our programming and what is needed for them as well. To me, that's something that I am passionate about. It's something that I would hope to continue to keep working at. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mimi Cardozo. I'm a dual credit student with the Winnebago Public School. My question is, as a community, what qualities do we lack, and how can we improve them with the council and the community?
Thank you, Mimi K. What qualities do we lack? Um, None. Everything that is necessary is here. And to elaborate on that, the upbringing that I had didn't always make sense to me at times. And as a young person, maybe things are said to you that you may not get or understand. Earlier, I said somebody told me very, very conspicuously, when you walk into a room and you're speaking, tell them your name and who you are. I didn't get it at the time, but I do today. But another part of that was one thing, my dad told me, there will be times, son, when you are asked to walk into a room and speak for others, in those times, there will be people and comments in that room that don't understand why you're there. Try as hard as you can to make sure that the environment that you create is one to which the message is not lost. In those days, I didn't understand what my dad was telling me, but I do today, because it is staring us in the face if we take one step back and look at it. As a member of my clan, it is my responsibility to speak not only on behalf of the leadership, but the people. And I have stepped forward to answer every question first, because it needed to be established the direction we were going in. I appreciate all of the answers that have been given by the candidates here. But I want you to know the characteristics that we have, we lack none. And as a member of the council, I see that as my responsibility to speak first and to represent those that cannot speak. regardless of how people come at you and regardless of how people feel about you, put it out there so it can be discussed. So if you're asking what we lack, it's nothing. But each of us has to take our responsibilities and our roles seriously so that all of us can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Mimike. Sitting here thinking, I thought the first word that came to mind was consistency. And I mentioned that how the tribe is funded heavily through grants, heavily through tribal appropriations from Winnebago, Ho-Chunk, taxes. Make sure I get it right. Winnebago Casino, Ho-Chunk Inc., Ho-Chunk Warhorse, Land Lease, Tax, Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund was ARPA, Gaming Commission, Liberty National Bank Investment Income. These are all the unrestricted revenue streams that the tribe has. And the other revenue streams the tribe has are grants. And so our programming is only as good as long as that grant lasts. And then the tribal either absorbs that position, sometimes, not always, or that service went away, or like, oh, I thought you guys used to do that. Well, that grant's over, can't do that. So we have to be able to rely on our programs to offer consistent programming for our families and to be there to, I guess, supplant that grant when it's not there. Because the service and the need never go away, just that pot of money went away. And the other thing that's really messed up is the grant system is um, a weak pass through to the state, and it's a horrible example of living up to the trust responsibility. I mentioned those treaties that the tribal ancestors signed, and there are 11 treaties that all said something that they were supposed to provide or do. And it's the tribal government's responsibility to uphold that tribal trust, that treaty responsibility, that federal trust responsibility. And that's all that federal money, all that opportunity that comes to the tribe because we have a distinct political status. We're a tribe. But we lack consistency. And every new council that comes that might have new ideas, that's kind of not how it works. You're driven by the organization's work. You're driven by the needs of the programs, by the tribe. You don't really get to show up and say, we're going to do Tory. That's not how it works. And so the work is driven by the CEO's programming agenda, by the treasurer's report, by the meetings, business that comes to those. But we have to be consistent in our follow-up. We have to be consistent in the offerings. And so I just hope that whatever we do moving forward, that we're consistent. My favorite Facebook starts with, do you know what the tribe should do? And it's because we should be doing those things. We should be offering those things, but those take resources. And if we don't have a grant, the resource has to come from our unrestricted appropriations. So consistency, reliable income resources, and a good grant writer. You know, I'm really thankful that we had Joy Johnson for that long, and she's here and approaching retirement. You know, like that's going to be a huge gap in our organization. So we need to be worried about that for that consistency. So thank you.
I'm trying to think of what qualities, but I think, because we're all human beings, the 9 people that sit at that table, what we bring are what we can do and know best. The 9 people at the table. And when I got on this council 3 years ago, I had to learn the 9 people that are sitting around me, or the 8 other people around me, their strengths, and gauge that for what was coming to us. And I appreciate the fact that our ancestors put 9 of us around the table, because we have our own gifts we bring, our own strengths to put to the collective in the best interests of the people. So the last thing I want to end with here is I'm really proud that Friday we had our 2022 audit report, and we had a perfect audit. And on the 3 years that I've been on this tribal council, we have had perfect audits. So I'm proud of that. And I want to thank all our programs, because it's all our programs who document the expenses they're paying for our people's services. And thank you to our finance staff who see that those are entered. And they're also going by our system of when the programs put in an expense, it's documented, and then they put it out for payment. So we have I think we could be the best fiscally managed tribe in the country. And I'm really proud of that. So thank you.
So I think one of the issues that I continue to discuss is the interest and focus on our language and culture, including our youth and all of that. But overall, our ability to work together is something that I think that we severely lack. We have a lot of healing to do as a community with historical trauma, the lateral oppression that we face. There's so many different things that as a community we do to each other. And I think that that is something that's lacking. And when we find our way back to our culture and language, I think that that would help heal a lot of things. I know that myself in my journey, like I've said, I would be the first to say that I know very minimal about our culture and language. There's so much more that I need to learn. But through the little that I have learned, I have healed and found a piece of myself and um, found who I am. And there's a lot of strength and healing that comes in that. And I think that that is something that we lack. And so through that focus on our language and culture and, bringing our youth along with that journey to finding ourselves, we would truly heal as a people and be able to work together again and be able to make the best decisions for each other.
Thank you for the question, Mimi K. I would just like to say that I think the things we lack maybe working together, coming together as a community, and have positive things to say to each other and our tribal members and our tribal council leaders. They're leaders, so they should be more positive. Or I'm not saying they're not, but I mean, like us just trying to come together and come and be positive for our people, and that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Mimi K. One of those things that you say you lack, it's always nice to be able to see yourself on both sides, strengths and weaknesses. One thing that I think within our community, it's been spoken on already, but building our families up more, and so that we having everybody help support each other. You always see our families come together during times of crisis, funerals and memorials, and good times as well. But very rarely have the council table or even families themselves. What we're trying to accomplish is creating more space and opportunities for our families to support each other. I mean, and like I said, I'll go off of my experience, but just seeing, taking a group of individuals up to a ball game, even as close as Sioux City, and the coach, and there's no parents there to support the children. That's tough for a child, anybody, even for yourselves. You go somewhere and expect to be have support behind you, and nobody's there to represent you. That's one thing that we've come across, that we've dealt with. Not even one fan in the stand. Not anybody to help out with these kids. It's just that one individual stepping up and working with those children. That's just an example. But one thing that I've tried to help establish with my work down at Whirling Thunder and any of my other jobs is just building up the parent support and asking parents to actually come drive your child to their games and be part of their job, be part of their lives. Because one thing is they're never going to remember how many points they scored, how far they ran, how tired they were. They're going to remember when You spent time with them on the ride home. You stopped at McDonald's. You did those things with them. Those are the things they're going to remember. Grandma came and watched, and she got me an ice cream after. And those little bitty things in our child's development and the way that we want to live our lives. I mean, that's huge for our community in itself, and it works as well among our families, giving those spaces. Renaissance itself, creating times where the community can come together and actually be a community outside of a funeral, outside of a memorial, where we can share family songs, where we can praise our veterans, where we can give thanks to everything that we have every day. That's something that I think that we miss out on a lot right now. We can do that at powwow and things like that, but I feel like as a community, we can be more established as far as trying to create more cultural opportunities for our youth, especially those that don't get that opportunity at home or don't get to hear our language at home or anything like that, then we create that space for them. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Pernell Robinson. I take a class here, Federal Indian Law, and my question has to do with enrollment. Do you agree with how enrollment is currently allowing people and children to be enrolled into the tribe? Or why and how would you change it?
Thank you, Pernell. The enrollment issue is something that's been going on for a number of years, and there are a lot of parameters with it. But to get to the meat of your question, I don't think it's, do I agree with it? I'm going to say it's more about what was its intention. Because when the tribal code was changed, meaning that the enrollment process was going to allow other Indian blood to be included in order to create enrollment eligibility with our tribe. The way that it was presented to the people at that time was these handful of individuals, and I knew some of them, of course, that were only a fraction below what was necessary. And so I voted yes on that secretarial election because I wanted those people who were born here, raised here, to become part of the tribe, because I have been here, my whole life, and there was no issue with me, even though there's other Indian blood in my heritage. But the point of that being is that the intention of it was to create that window for this small group of people. But what it's been turned into is kind of a shopping around, if you will, of where can my child get the best deal. And some people don't like to talk about that type of thing, but I have sat at the council table seeing the enrollment information come forward. And there have been multiple examples, but the most probably conspicuous one, there was a child, 3/4 some other tribe, grandparents on both sides of the family, some other tribe. But because one of them had a 1/16 within this child, and then the child didn't live here either, they became Winnebago. That is not what that was meant to be. That child should belong to the tribe of where they lived and where their grandparents lived. But because that tribe provided very little financial resources for their families, they brought that kid here. That's not what it was intended to do. Now we come forward, if you're not aware, Ho-Chunk Nation, at their general council last weekend, passed a resolution to where all of their members before 1999 are now 4/4. And it's kind of a funny thing because if you know anything about me, especially on my mother's side, my grandfather, may he rest, was not Indian at all. But now my mother is 4/4 Ho-Chunk. I understand the intention of where we're going because we need to protect our numbers and we need to make sure our grandchildren are enrollable. My belief on this is strict lineage. If your parents are, you are. But until we get to that point, we're going to continue messing around in someone else's game, fortifying the pedigree. I wish we would move to lineage. Thank you.
Thank you. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Thank you for the question. My So we're a IRA tribe. Um, we're an Indian Reorganization tribe. Indian Reorganization Act was passed in 1934. And if you wonder why our Constitution, and our base role started in 1934, because the leadership at that time adopted that Constitution. And in that cookie cutter Constitution was that 1/4 blood quantum. And as we know, the blood quantum system and the fractionation of the land was an effort to assimilate us and to break up the communal way that we lived and to destroy our people. Well, in that 1934 Constitution, there were elements that the federal government thought that they should include for us. And they said, here, tribe, have this and adopt it, and we did. And in there was that blood quantum component. And so that was never our way. And previous to 1934, there were things that, and folks that we accepted into our tribe as relatives, like when somebody got married, they became Winnebago. And so it's drawing on those traditional teachings, I think, that I've heard, that we need to continue to revamp. Those went away, and now we had to go by this blood quantum system, and we had to have this systematic approach to annihilate ourselves. So right now, although it always comes down to resources, I know a couple, probably like 5 years ago or so, we were talking about doing things that would allow the children to be enrolled. Because right now, the most that we hear from our grandparents that my grandbaby can't be enrolled, and it's a hardship because they're not eligible for this. So somebody had actually said, well, if we do that, then we're not gonna get clothing allowance. Like, that's not even true. And why aren't we thinking of, we'll just we'll bake a bigger cake, or maybe people get a little bit less, but we have to be inclusive of the relatives, because most of the time we're talking about people that live in the community, go to WPS, go to St. Aug's, maybe even go to Little Priest. They come that long in their life and not enrolled. So trying to find a blanket solution has been really hard. And every time we think of something, we're like, oh, what about this? Like, yeah, what about that? And so we have not solved it yet, but there's a commitment. And there's a commitment from the grandparents to keep following this along. And until we acknowledge that this Constitution was pressed on the tribe and we thought it was a good thing at that time, we have a constitutional amendment policy that allows us to change those things. And we have to ask the BIA if we want to have a secretary election. So there goes the BIA away in our way again. So there's all these things that came with an IRA Constitution that don't make it so simple. So where I stand is that we need to keep working on it. And we need to look at what other tribes are doing, because we're not the only tribe in this space. And what Brian mentioned about the Ho-Chunk Nation General Council action, maybe we could learn something from that. But it's got to have to be a solution driven by the people, because it's the families that are going to benefit from that. So I don't want to take a hard stance on which method I think would work, but it has to be a method of survival. Thank you.
I moved back to the reservation. I was living out in South Dakota. Um, I was a public health nurse over on the Rosebud Reservation. Oh yeah, I have a bachelor's degree in nursing, so I've been a college student too. But when I moved back here, my uncle was talking to me, Darrell LaPointe Sr., and he had been looking at all of the issues that the families were having for enrollment. And he said, you know what would solve this? Is he said, when they in 1934, when we had this Constitution, and we accepted that you have to at least be 1/4 Winnebago, he said, they set us up to slowly not become Indians anymore. And so he said, let's trick them. Let's just have a secretarial election, and everybody that's enrolled becomes 4/4 Winnebago. And I thought, I totally agree with that. So that's where we are right now. Is we've done surveys, and pretty soon though, we got to do something, because we have children that are just this much and they're ours, and they can't be enrolled. So I see that we're going to have, if I get elected here, I'm going to have to be working towards a secretarial election. We have to solve this to continue our nation. But I really am in support of that 4/4. I know that some don't want to lose. Well, what about my grandma was Lakota, and I still want to claim that blood. Well, we can have that in our file, what our bloodlines are. But we can still be continuing the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska. So I'm in support of the 4/4. Everybody's 4/4, and then that covers us for another 100 years. And then in 100 years, they do it again. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and thank you, Mimi K, for the question earlier. I don't think I said that. So enrollment, I think I touched on it a bit when we were first starting, but it is a system designed to work against us. It is a form of eugenics and a means to eliminate a marginalized group. Like us, and other tribes have the same issue. So when we continue to push off the topic and continue with blood quantum, the only thing that is ensuring when we use blood quantum is that we will no longer be here in the future. Not all tribes are blood quantum, and some of them have decided to go to descendancy and lineage, and have actually had an increase in funding for their tribe. Um, I know that when we talk about blood quantum and we talk about the increase in our tribal population, money comes into play a lot, and we're going to have to share our resources. Um, but to me, that's not really our cultural way of thinking. Like I said previously, there was, we used descendancy and lineage for thousands and thousands of years, and it did not destroy our people and our community, and it kept us stronger and ensured that we were here today. So there's so much that goes into these discussions, and I think that it is important for us as a whole to get all of the information um, that is needed and have a community forum and discussion to give everyone a voice, and to also educate about the options that we do have, and ease some of those fears if we did go to descendancy or lineage, that this is the best for our people and our grandchildren and our future. And that's my stance on enrollment.
Thank you for your question, Pernell. My stance would be asking you tribal members, what do you think? What do we want to do? How do we want to pursue our membership to continue to grow and go, flourish? Uh, do we want to go to descendancy? Do we just want to go to 4/4? Let's ask off tribal members and see what their ideas are. And I'm all okay. I'm all for changing the blood quantum and to keep our tribal membership going.
Appreciate the question. So, as far as enrollment goes, I think everybody's kind of hit the nail on the head as far as different options and whatnot. But I mean, obviously, this isn't something that hasn't been discussed among tribes all across the United States, Canada, everything. It's been an issue because of the system that was set up to try to eliminate the Indian type of attitude. Um, I mean, I agree with. There's so many different options, descendancy, um, going full blood quantum for those before a certain date or whatnot. It's all viable options, but open public forums such as this, bringing in membership surveys, create an opportunity for the tribe to speak for itself. Um, well, going off of what Brian had said in Lorelei, where we were able to allow a child to get enrolled, but we're only going to take so much of their Indian blood to make them a quarter. I guess a great example I can use is like my own son here. They're almost full-blooded Native American, but according to our records, they're only a quarter Winnebago. So, like, utilizing all Indian blood that a child brings in, whether it makes them up to that quarter or just using all of it, and that's how much Winnebago there are. Again, that's got to be discussions that happens among everybody in the membership. It can't be, it's too big of a decision to make just, one person at the table. So just again, my opinion, open public forums, there are great opportunities for this membership to continue to grow. But I think that's something that this table in the next few years is going to have to make a big decision, because it's going to come down to like our children, their children, and where are they going to be enrolled at, and where are they going to find home at, and where are they going to lay their head down and be at home with. That it's a big decision, and like I said, I think everybody kind of nailed it. Where it needs to come from everybody. It can't just come from one person at the table. Thank you.
Those are all the student questions I have. Every student in all of my Native Studies classes that I teach had 3 questions each. Unfortunately, we are on a time limit, so we don't get to ask every question that was asked. Maintenance will be locking up this building at 3, so I'm hoping we can be done by 2:45. So we have half an hour left. Are there any community questions? Okay.
Hinikadagi, know I'm Nieja Habachwinga. I'm from the Wolf Clan, and some of you may know I'm a teacher at the Winnebago Public School. I teach a dual immersion classroom where we use the Ho-Chunk language and culture to teach all the subjects, math, science, social studies, everything. And there aren't many Ho-Chunk teachers in the school, but our tribe has educated so many people to be teachers and to get those teaching degrees and to get those teaching licenses, only to have them leave education completely or just leave the school. What I'd like to know is, how are you going to make sure that our students get Ho-Chunk teachers?
From my perspective, what I've typically tried to do, of course, with the existing program is basically not get in their way, meaning that the people that we employ and the people that we task with the responsibility of providing all of the language and cultural teaching that comes through our program, we're hired to do something. And I see it as my responsibility not to step in front of them and tell them how to do their jobs, but instead stand with them and allow them to go forward and do the work that is necessary, because they are the experts and I am not. But with that being said, to answer your question, this comes down, from my perspective, to a matter of course, interest, but also resources. We have to make sure that the tribe is geared, that the tribe is ready, that the tribe has available those resources necessary in order to basically pay for what needs to be done. A lot of people shy away from and have a knee-jerk reaction to when we talk about money. But the reality is money as part of our resources are a necessary component to making things happen. We need to make sure that the jobs that we're creating can be sustainable jobs, so somebody doesn't worry about, is my grant going to end? Or are we done at the end of the semester? I want them to have the ability to create a career out of the pathway that they're selecting by being involved with language, being involved with culture, et cetera. So while I may not be the person to lead that program, I do have the ability to provide for that program. And that's what I would be able to do with that. And what we actually have done, I mean, in very conspicuous and real ways, setting aside money specifically for X, Y, and Z. So my answer is basically that: provide for what needs to be done. And that's, again, the council's job. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle. First, I want to say thank you for being a Native educator. And I'm friends with you on Facebook, so I really like seeing the posts you make about the little relatives. And it just really makes me happy. When they came into the chambers and introduced themselves in Ho-Chunk, it brought a tear to, everyone's eye because we were so proud and wish that we could get up and do that. And so they showed us something that day. And recently, one of the parents of the relatives said, this program only goes to a certain grade. How do we keep them together? How do we keep them? And my first question was, well, we should talk to the school board and look at the curriculum or look at what even made this program possible. And maybe the next step is let's do a charter school or do some type of smaller, a small charter school. One of my classmates from Haskell, from Red Lake, they started a charter school and they're successful. And we could do that too. And I mean this with all due respect, we got to put our money where our mouth is, because if that's what we want and we want to preserve that language, culture, and those teachings, we have to live it in our everyday life and we have to be surrounded by it. And that's not going to happen by having somebody come by for 30 minutes or what they call specials. Is that what those are kind of called? And it shouldn't be specials. It should be, this is it, So I think the next step in the growth of that component is a charter school. And right now we have a public school in our community. We have a state village office. At some point, if we really want to decolonize and step forward in that indigenous knowledge, that indigenous teachings that we're all grasping for, it would be a charter school. Thank you.
This question that Michelle asked I've been thinking about it. In my personal experience, my parents were divorced when I was little, so my Lakota mother raised us. So what I learned was my Lakota language side, was my Lakota culture side. And I moved back here to Winnebago in 1998. And I had to try to learn my Ho-Chunk side. And as I started learning, they're the same. A lot of the teachings are the same that I'm learning that are our Ho-Chunk side that is on our Lakota side. And I remember I'm seeing Blue sit back there. I'm thinking of his dad. In that year he left us, we were in the gym. Before he left us, we were in the gym. And he sat down by me and he said, "Hey, Lorelai," he said, "I'm really worried about my son." And I said, "Why? He's doing really good." And he said, No, not that. He said, "I'm worried because his whole heart and spirit is committed to keeping our language alive. And he's running out of people to help him." And I just felt for him. And I don't have an answer. I think we're trying the best we can as the Ho-Chunk people to keep our language alive. We are, our little ones in our school. But as we know, the speakers that we still have are leaving us. So this is a very frightening situation that we are in at this time as the Ho-Chunk people. And I think the council's responsibility is we need to have some small groups and discuss in the coming winter, because we'll have time, we can sit down together. We need to talk about this as a people and get our ideas together about how we can continue our language, but it's going to take all of us to participate, give our input. So I don't have any easy answer, but the Winnebago people, we have always found a way to survive. And we follow that way by talking and praying about it and sitting together and sharing what we think. And I think we need to do that, have these talking circles about continuing, how do we continue to gain Ho Chunk language teachers. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Pina Gigi for your question, Michelle. I think this was something that we talked about the other week. But as you all know or may know, I was a special education teacher at the Winnebago Public School. And I think that there was multiple reasons that I left, but pay was um, at the top of my list. I was only getting paid at that time with a bachelor's, 32,000 a year, and I was barely making ends meet. And I wasn't going to be able to get to my goals in my life and for my children if I continued working there. And my path took me another way, and I'm thankful for that path, you know, but also that was my dream job, was to work with troubled students, because I was once a troubled student, and that I loved my job. Yeah, I just, that was what I wanted to do, and I would continue to do it if things were different. um, how to encourage our community and our students, our Winnebago tribal students, to become teachers is, you know, growing our own, but also ensuring a safe place for them to work. It is very toxic in the Winnebago public school, and I have had to, you know, we had many different issues, and anyone that works in the school is very aware. Being, you know, native or Winnebago, that there are issues in the school, and there is a way that certain teachers look at us, and, you know, a way that they look at our students. And being a teacher, you just want to protect them, all of those students, you know. And I think that that's one of the probably the second reason, you know, that I left, was the toxicity at the school, and knowing that it's so ingrained into our school system there that there was no way that I was going to be able to change it, you know, on my own. I know this was before Michelle came, and I think Willie had left after that. And so I was super thankful when Jade got in there. It was like a, you know, a new hope, you know, but now it's like, it's just Jade and Michelle and a couple others, I think, that are there. So I really feel that's really something that's close to my heart, is growing our own, and being in the school and being with our kids. Um, but I would think that it would be, um, you know, it's something that would take community involvement and parent involvement to change the environment in the school. And my time's up. But supporting our teachers that go into there through mental health, self-care, and different things. Our teachers deserve so much that, you know, that's just something that's not an option for them right now, is support.
Oh, Lorelai's. Did she? Yeah. Thank you, Michelle, for the question. And I really appreciate everything that you do for the children. And I know that you are dedicated and love those children and love our tribal members. And I just want to say that I commend Lewis too in his program and trying to continue the language and culture for our students. And I talked to him before, you know, and I would, we, there's so much that we can do as tribal members, but we would like to push more people towards learning the language. And myself, you know, I know just a tiny bit. There's so much to know within our language. And I would be in full support of having a school, a charter school as well, for our students and our Winnebago people. And let's continue to, I know he has stuff online that you can go on there and learn as well. And that's what, I guess that's as much as we can do. We're just gonna try until we can get to that point where we have fluent speakers. And I'm thankful for our program uh, and Lewis and all the staff up there. Pinagigi.
Thank you for the question, Michelle, and kudos to you and what you guys do up there in the immersion class. The twins during the baseball, you know, that if you guys didn't know that, the twins, two little guys in her classroom ended up taking first place up there, and they were a big vital part of that when during the baseball, and it was really nice to see. It was awesome. Even my nephew, little Mark, you know, he's so ingrained, and he'll come up there and command me around or try to talk to me a little bit in Ho Chunk, and we understand him somewhat, but it's just something that we love to see, them wearing their long hair, them having a safe space for that as well. That's a big part of it. But I think when you're talking about trying to encourage more people to get into language, I mean, obviously, we have our school that we have to be able to utilize, and that's something that, you know, it's a bigger question in itself as well, because they just let just this past year, they let two teachers walk away that actually were trying to keep language and culture in the school. One of them had a master's degree. They didn't want to pay him. They just said, "No, we'd rather not have you here. Go, we're done with you," essentially. And that was through that Title VI program. There are new people there now that are working hard, but they only work with 5th through 12. Who's covering K through 4? You know, why are and I'm not to put anything on Blue. I know they work really hard, and they're short resources, and they're short staffed as it is, as many other programs in the community are. But why aren't we having immersion classes even as far down as Educare? You know, even learning that the people in early childhood education are able to try to teach those type of things even as far back as that. And having a student, even any student that walks into public school, should be getting 4 years of Ho Chunk. It should be an automatic, a given, especially if you're from this community. But the school isn't putting priority on that as it is. Our test scores at our public school are actually going down. They're really low in the state right now. Go look it up. It's public knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And how do we interact with the school? It's, you know, through the school board. It's, you know, as a community demanding better. It's as a community asking the school to do more. And the school's taxing as it is. I talk with a lot of teachers at the school, and they're pressed as it is. There's not enough funding. There's not enough classrooms. The kindergarten class that just came in, something like 50 kids. Where are all these kids going to go to school at? There's almost not enough room in our school that we have right now. The community itself is going to grow so much in the next 10 years that we have to be ready for it, and we have to be looking out for them and including our language and including our teachers to come and work here in Winnebago. You know, that there was people with teaching degrees that moved on because there just wasn't enough funding coming into the program. And you know what? It needs to be, because as you heard everybody here say, that's one of their priorities. But let's make it happen. That needs to be a priority for everybody. It's got the council table. It shouldn't just be coming from one person. Thank you.
I think we might have space for one or two more community questions, then I'm going to let them give you guys their contact information for afterwards.
First of all, I want to commend everybody up there for doing what you're doing and putting yourself in the position that you are. The question I have, Eugene actually kind of just spoke on it a little bit, but with all the growth in our community, you see our population growth, all the different things going on in our community. The growth happens in many different aspects in our community. You as a leader, how would you approach developing a plan for tackling all of these different issues that could come up in the near future with all our growth?
Thank you, Aaron, for that question. From my perspective, the answer is relatively simple and easy to give. It's still following the plan that the tribe established during my first term in 2008. using the five prioritized areas. The company you work for actually still uses those and then prints them in their annual plan. So that's the quick and easy answer. The other parts that I want to add into that, again, though, however, are we need to recognize what the needs of the tribe and the people are in a greater and more in-depth way. Because as what I said earlier today, if you ask anyone in the tribe, what do we need, you're going to get an answer back. So the proverbial, or not even that, the logistical answer is, if you ask that question of the tribe, you're going to get 5,670 answers. And none of them are wrong. In order to meet the needs, however, within those 5,670 answers, you have to have a plan and a mechanism with which to reach them, which is why the 5 prioritized areas were created. Because prior to that, you guys will remember the tribe went in any direction, or who came down and yelled at you and whatever else. Now that still happens, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, the overall plan of the tribe does not change in any very, I guess, knee-jerk type way. There are substantial changes that happen. I don't want that to get lost. The tribe makes very specific advances forward, and they facilitate something inside one of those 5 areas. But what I want to see coming forward is to where those 5 areas are expanded to 7. Jobs, housing, elders, youth, education exist within those 5. Veteran service need to be added, and a healthcare component needs to be added as well. We saw the implosion of IHS and the evolution of 12 clans. The people that were intimately involved in creating that, one of them is here in this room, supported by the council, of course. But without those being added, we're never going to bring it into the tribe as a whole, and we need to continue to do that. And then the other one, like I said, veteran services. There's a lot of good discussion, but at the same time, we don't tie the needs of our veterans into how the services of the tribe are brought forward. There are other areas as well, yes, but again, we can only move so fast in a forward direction because we don't have unlimited resources. But by continuing to use the plan that we have, adding to it in the ways that we can significantly touch and advance without needing, the tribe to hit the lottery, so to speak, we will continue to build and create better things for our tribe and our people. Use the plan we have. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I'm going to share some words that were shared with me. I mentioned that I get to sit with some wisdom and experience at the tribal council table. And Councilman Louis LaRose said to me, he said, don't get so far ahead of yourself that you look back and no one's following you. And I've really been thinking about that. And I've been thinking, what that means and kind of the application of that and what was going on at the time. And I come back to this appropriations budget, and that's our unrestricted money. The Teen Center, Wake and Burial, Communications, Veteran Services, Tribal Member Services, Tax Commission, Construction Management, Tribal Judicial, Wildlife and Parks, Land Management, Utilities, Facilities, Tribal Housing, Summer Youth, Roads, Credit, Social Services, Education, Higher Education, Enrollment, Tribal Council, Emergency Home Repair, Senior Housing, Farm Lease, Land, Radio Station, Clothing Allowance, YCI, Repatriation, Law Enforcement, Ho-Chunk Renaissance, Educare, EPD Outreach, Cemetery Garden, Upkeep, Hemp Commission, Utility Commission. This is the total programs that benefit from the tribal appropriations budget. And these are all the resources that come from those unrestricted funding sources that fund these programs. So I put the question back and challenge all those folks that pay into that appropriations budget. What are you gonna do to help the tribe grow? Because we have to grow together. We can't have anybody getting ahead of the tribe. We have to support the college so that our tribal member students are growing with the organization, that the positions that we need that we're offering here, or at least bridges to get them there. So I go back that we have to grow together. We need a land use plan. The council's been talking about that for 2 years now, that we need a land use plan. And we've been really reactive than proactive. Lorelei mentioned the code revision. There's all these things that need to be tweaked, like for instance, we passed a public intoxication code. It was not because we want to be messing and bothering everybody. It's because when it's the dead of winter and we have somebody who's out in the cold and intoxicated, the police can't pick them up because they didn't commit a crime. So we're looking at things like that where we need to grow with our community and answer the needs of our people and meet them where they are so that we can pick them up and take them to a shelter, safe, somewhere warm, take them to a relative, take them where they need to go. But that's an example of how we need to grow based on our community. We need a revenue share plan. We need to fully understand as a community where we want to put our revenue. As you know, there's all these talks of economic development. In 5 years, we're going to be booming. Well, let's plan for that. Let's get that revenue share plan in motion, and people can decide what they want to fund. So I just want to say that much, that we have to grow together and we have to support one another, because everything that we do is in the name of the people and the tribe, and we have to ensure that anything that we tackle, that at the very foundation of that is how it's going to benefit the tribe. So thank you.
I'm sorry, I was out having a quick puff. What was the question? What was the question? Well, I think I kind of been talking about it all, and it's in my article, so I don't take up time. I'm just going to work hard and take direction from you, the people. That's all I can do, is give it my best, work hard, pray. I say I love my Winnebago people, but I really mean it. That's the best I can do, and the best I can give you is of myself. And I want to also, I don't think we told about this, but we're building some veterans units up there in Thunder Way. And that should be, they should be starting on those this year. I think there, how many were there? We, under the Winnebago Housing and Development Commission. Was there 6 or 7? Yeah, the amount of money that they had with the rising construction costs, materials costs, it started going down how many they wanted to build. But up there by Thunder Way, there's going to be more veterans units for the veterans. I just want to bring that up. That was something that we didn't get to tell you. So that's all I can do, my Winnebago people, is just work hard, continue to work hard, pray, take your input, and move forward together with the whole tribe. Thank you.
We're getting close to time, so after these 3 answer, I'm sorry to say that this will be the last question, but I'll let these guys give you your contact information after this.
I'll try to be quick. Okay, so with Aaron's question, I think that when we think about community growth, it across the board is an increase in community services. So that entails a lot of different things with our schools, with our law enforcement, utilities. There's so many things that go into community growth, and we are growing really fast. But I think that a development of a plan, I know that I had heard that they have 5 things that they're working toward right now, but I think that that would include getting community input for their own needs, but as well as the entities in the community and the directors, and getting everyone's input that's a player in this community, because we can't, I mean, there couldn't be a plan that fully focuses on the community as a whole if we don't hear from everybody. So, that's one of my main things that I try to do in everything I do, is collaborate and work with everybody. And I think that, we could sit down and get this thing going where we made a plan that worked for everyone. And based it off income and different things. But being able to serve the entire community with the growth rate that we have right now, I think it would be having giving the community a voice and ensuring that all of our needs are met. Thanks.
I would just follow the plan that we do have in place, and I would like to maybe have a forum like this way for all of us to come together and sit down and let's talk about our goals and what we want to, you know, pursue. That's what I would do. And as far as coming together as a community in our tribal membership and our tribal leaders so we can all work together.
Thank you for your question, Aaron. So within the growth that's going to happen in the community, it's not if it's going to happen, it's when and how quick it's going to happen. Understanding that, you know, the housing issues that got spoke on today, they're going to become more extensive than what they already are now. We have to realize that the median age right now in Winnebago, I believe, is 19 to 21, somewhere around that. And understanding that we do need 4-bedroom homes for bigger families that matches their income. We do need more housing developments like we had in the past, like the Valley, you know, the new called the new get or Sheridan Drive and things along those lines. Even Thunder Way, when that went up, those are the type of developments that are needed in the community, and I believe they are happening. The plan is in place for them to happen, but along that, also providing helping with services that comes along with it, but also prioritizing working within the community, because if we're going to have that much membership in our community that want to stay and live here, that's going to be a huge part of it, is being able to provide, like you said, a pathway for them to get out of college, come work for the tribe, have a development plan where there is room for advancement for them and they can raise their families. They can buy a home. It can be a rent to own. It can be something that's sustainable for our people in the community. And like you said, that's part of what's going to have to happen is the forums and whatnot. But if we can do that as well, and even the people who are working now tirelessly to make it what it is today, that's going to be a big part of it. But developing also our other programming that we have here already in the community. Like I said, I lean on my strengths and our youth sports program. You know, I've created so many teams and there's so many children in our community right now, like we can't have just one gym that they can use. Right now, we have 5 volleyball teams that are trying to play volleyball, and we have one gym, and we got shut down last week because of funerals and whatnot. And then they don't practice, and then there's nowhere for them to go. And I mean, to me, I feel like we can do better for them. We can do better for the entire community, but it comes down to everybody stepping up and working and making sure that everybody's fighting for the same goal, which is make everything stronger for those that are behind us, make everything better for everybody that's going to come up after us. Yes, we want good things for ourselves and for our families, but I think we have a great opportunity right now to take it by the horns and actually go forward, move forward, and build these homes. Bring up our young men, bring up our young women that want to be laborers, that want to go work, and make sure that they're in a safe space themselves and that they can thrive in our community. Then we don't have people wanting to leave and then off reservation membership, you know, asking us for things and everything. They can stay right here in our own community and we can grow together. Thank you.
That's going to conclude the community questions for right now, but I'm going to let the council members give you an opportunity to contact them, whether it's through email or any form of social media, or even a phone number. I was going to let you guys do that. I mean, your things first. Oh, yeah.
First of all, thank you guys, everybody that took the opportunity to come, the candidates that were able to show up here today. It is not an easy thing to put your name in the hat because trust and believe as a candidate, people go all over the map and the things that they bring forward. The things I want to leave you with, besides my gratitude, are when you're selecting your candidates in the ballot box, please select those that can get it done. Talk is cheap, you guys, and at the same time, it is necessary, but at the end of the day, it does not move us forward. It is the work that is done. And so before everybody leaves, I'm placing these out here. These are the summary of the minutes of the Tribal Council since I was elected in 2020. Our work is right here. You'll see what we did. And at the same time, you'll see what we did not do. It's here for you to see. It's here for you to take. Elect those who can move us forward. One individual does not need to be brought into the council chambers and made to feel like they don't matter. If you ever come to me as your council person, regardless of my position, I will advocate for you as much as I can, because I have done that in the past, proven in the last 3 years on these flash drives. It matters who we select to sit at that table. Each candidate that's sitting here cares about our people, but that goes without saying. Who can create what's necessary to move us forward as a tribe, as a people? All 5,670 of us. Because when we don't move together, as what the chairwoman just said, we don't move at all. A relative of mine sat at that table. We are only as good off or well off as our poorest, most disadvantaged tribal member. That's who we need to make sure we're moving forward with us and never leaving behind. So make that choice on who can get it done, who has gotten it done, because it matters at the end of the day. Thank you guys again for coming. Go Big Red.
Where can they find you
Kickoff.
if they have questions?
Brian Chamberlain, Brian.Chamberlain, Winnebago Tribe, or you guys all, you know where I am. Oh, come to our
Thank you to Little Priest Tribal College students for hosting this event. Thank you for that prayer and the meal that was provided today. That corn that was harvested probably by those sitting around you. So I would just like to say, there's so many things I forgot to say when I was getting those questions answered, but I want to go back to the growth. The next thing that we need is a paid fire department. These houses are going up all around town, these apartment buildings. We have a new senior center over there, the new housing seniors. There's so many other aspects that have to grow with it. Physical Resources has done the work to get us a new lagoon out west. I mean, we're growing so much, we need a new lagoon. You know, it's just like every aspect of the community has to be thought of in this growth. And I want to acknowledge all the tribal council, all the ancestors, everybody that signed that treaty that made sure that we would be here today, and that each of us that stood up here today and spoke to the membership, we have a responsibility. And we have a responsibility to uphold that federal treaty responsibility. We have a responsibility to create a healthy, happy community for our tribal members, and something that's going to grow with them and be represented by them. And I hope to be that representative. Thank you.
I want to say thank you to the students, Little Priest, and all of you for coming. And I just want you to know that I don't do social media. I don't do Facebook. And I don't do that because no one's accountable for what they write. Everybody should be accountable for what they write or what they say. And you don't have to be on Facebook. So I don't use Facebook. But I am available until Monday on Lorelei.decor@winnebagotribe.com. And then my phone number is a cell phone till Monday or through Monday is 402-922-3576. So see you guys. Love you. All right. Tomorrow evening, we're having a family movie night at the big screen. We're going to watch Hocus Pocus. I know, that's a cute movie. And then have popcorn and Indian tacos. So see you guys there.
I wanted to say thank you to Alex and her class, and I'm super proud of you, Alex. She used to be one of my summer youth workers, and now she's an instructor at LPTC, so I'm very proud of you. That's kind of the thing that we want. You know, we want our students to come up and start taking our places, and you know, I'm really very happy for you. Great questions to all of the students, and you can reach me through sunshine.bear@Winnebago Tribe or 402-922-2631. And also tomorrow, I was gonna let people know that tomorrow and Monday, tomorrow we can have, come to my house for coffee or whatever, just come visit throughout the day. I'll be home and I'll be cooking and glad to be home. I've been gone for a couple days. But my home will be open all day tomorrow and Monday. I am also making a pot of soup, probably maybe around 5. And so if anyone wants to come over after work and come eat and just visit, my home is open. And just hope that everyone votes with their hearts and not with any hate or malice towards anybody. Look out for the best of our people and our future.
I just want to say Pinagigi to Little Priest and whoever, the food, the prayer, and thank you to the students mostly for all the questions that they had, and everybody that came, you tribal members, you care about our people as well as we care about our people. And I want to commend the people that did put their name on a list, that they came forward and they love our people just like you do. And I would like to say I'm gonna have a luncheon on the election day. It will be held at my house, and I hope to see all of you there and come by. And if you have any questions, comments, I can be reached at elizabeth.bear@winnebagotribe.com. And I'm here for you. Your vote is my vote.
Just want to thank everybody for coming and attending the forum today. Thank you to Little Priest Tribal College for putting it on. Like in my facts and what I try to hold true is working for our community. That's something that I've kind of held true and tried to be the best I can be at. I feel like, what Brian said kind of hit the nail on the head about just results and getting things done. That's exactly what, I've tried to accomplish in our community as little time as I've had, to work with our youth and work within the community itself. I feel like we are in a better place now than we were, before. And a lot of work, and I never try to take credit for any of that. I always feel those that I work with and those that I work around are the strengths of finding those people that want to step up and volunteer and be part of it. I always feel like that's a big portion of it, and those thoughts and feelings that people try to put into their work. And being fortunate enough to be called on to help out with cultural activities and being ingrained within the community, it gives me a great understanding of what our community needs are and what the people are feeling and what we want to work for and what we want to try to accomplish. Um, Again, like I said, I stand on the people that I've worked with before, or even like the youngest group of kids I had are, about 32, 33 years old now, and we're all the way down to kids that are, in kindergarten and up. And it's a great thing to see that our youth are inspired, our youth are moving in a better direction. There are aspirations for college, there are aspirations for sports, but moving on into the Cabo Council, if you guys do choose to elect me, it's going to be that next step of making sure that as adults they're set up in a great way to succeed in life and succeed as parents and succeed as caregivers, whatever they choose to do. And I appreciate all you guys' support, and I hope to see you guys on Tuesday. We'll be set up at the big screen. We'll have food there, so if you guys are free to welcome, come and visit. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for showing up. Election day is on October 3rd, this Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Go down to the Blackhawk Center and vote for anyone up to 3 candidates. So with that, I think we're good to call it here. Thank you, everybody.